passes to the central reality. One should not be misguided by the activities of this material world and forget the central point, the absolute truth. This is the instruction given here by Lord Brahma. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gina Jina Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachari Name the Erbasesa Sunyavari Pastyatya Desatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, nice figurative description of the material body and how it's driven by the three modes of material nature. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there's nothing beyond these three modes. That means materially, everything is within the control of the three modes of material nature. And each of the modes has a particular force or particular energy that affects the living entity. We plug into that particular mode according to the desire we have and the activity we perform. So the modes have a certain characteristics to them, qualities, characteristics, effects. They're like energies that move things in the material world. And our desire is the foundation by which we act. So based on our desire, we speak or we perform an activity. And according to the quality of that activity, we connect with a particular mode of material energy. Either good and goodness, passion and ignorance. And by that connection, we get a particular result from that activity. If we want to, try to increase our material success or opulence in life, we work in that direction, so we connect it very strongly with the mode of passion. And that mode of passion drives us in a certain way to seek out the results of our activities. And that's the foundation pretty much for material activities. They're all based on getting a particular result. And the results are many. Of course, we can divide it into three: favorable, unfavorable, and mixed. The mode of ignorance is the lowest of all mode, and it's characterized by destructive activities, which happen both for the performer and for others. So that is the lowest of modes. And that is excessive sleep, intoxication, madness, and greed. These are all qualities of the mode of ignorance. Uncleanliness, that's also quality of the mode of ignorance. All of these things. Mode of passion is a hard struggle to enjoy the material energy, to make money, to get into relationships with the opposite sex, to achieve some material fortune, fame, fortune, some success in the material world, in one category or another. Money, followers, prestige, like that, sense gratification. And these also fall into the mode of ignorance too, but in the mode of ignorance they're considered to be vikarma, or they're activities that are detrimental. In the mode of passion they're considered to be acceptable, but also detrimental for one's spiritual life. Then we have the mode of goodness, which is characterized by illumination, knowledge, piety, giving and charity, to the proper sources, not just giving in charity in general, but to a worthy recipient of the charity. Cleanliness, that's a mode of goodness. Truthfulness, tolerance, these are all of the characteristics of the mode of goodness. Study of scripture, religiousness, kindness, charity, all these things. So we have a particular desire, we have a particular activity that's based on that desire, and we act and we get a particular result, like that. But then there's another activity which is without any result at all, and that is called akarma, or that activity that doesn't produce any material reactions, and that's devotional service. Now sometimes we look and we think, well, I'm doing something in devotional service, and I'm looking at my results, and I like the results or I don't like the results. So that our mentality is wrong, but the idea is that there will be always some consequence to any activity. But these material, spiritual activities do not bind one to a particular material reaction. They elevate our consciousness, even if the activity seems to be less than favorable, because they're done as a service to the Supreme Lord under the guidance of the spiritual master. So for an activity to be devotional service, it has to be authorized by the spiritual master, and it has to be directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, it has to be directed towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then those activities don't produce any material results. So as we are engaging in devotional service, we're getting free from the reactions of our past material activities gradually. And eventually those activities will completely stop. Sometimes we ask, is devotees still under the influence of karma? Not really, but still there is what calls residual reactions coming from our past activities that may appear like karma, but they're just simply, Prabhupada uses the example. If you have a fan and then you pull out the plug of the fan doesn't stop turning immediately. The wheel will turn for a while, and then what happens? Eventually it stops. So as long as we stay in devotional service, and then our material results of our past, both pious and impious, will gradually be reduced, because both of these bind them to us in the material world. Prabhupada would say pious and impious, all impious. Why? Because anything material connects you back to the material energy, and that tightens the foundation of our cycle in the birth and death. So as long as we're doing, so sometimes devotees think, well, maybe I should do some welfare work on the outside for helping people. But if it's not connected with anything spiritual, then, or Krishna consciousness, we should say, and then again, one is accumulating some karmic activities. Because anything done in a material sense is binding. Is binding here. So here, this verse, using this figurative, it's kind of an analogy here. It says that the external energy is driven by this electrical energy, which evolves around the hub or the central point. And who is that? Krishna. Krishna is the driving force in everything. So when we become aware that everything is being driven by Krishna, even now you look at the world today and you think, well, what's going on? Is Krishna sleeping? Why doesn't he do something about these problems now? Well, he does sleep, but when he's asleep, he's awake at the same time. He can do that. In other words, even when he's sleeping, he's aware of everything. So sometimes we think, well, why doesn't he change the horrible situations in the world? Well, he puts the three modes in material nature in place, and he gives them their functionary, process of how they function. Plug into the different modes of material nature, then a particular mode, if it's emphasized, becomes prominent. So Prabhupada would always say, the mode of goodness is conspicuous by its absence. You can't find it nowadays. But what is going on is the mode of passion and ignorance. So right now, and especially right now, the mode of passion and ignorance is very strong. So, and because people have that particular desire, and therefore they plug into these modes, and these modes become stronger and stronger, and they affect even people who are not engaged in these activities in a subtle way. One is also affected by that, just like we're affected by this atmosphere right now. Although we don't have anything to do with creating such a thing, but those who perform sinful activities do. When you perform sinful activities, you get a reaction according to that, and those reactions are, either causing wars, pestilence, various types of calamities in the world, natural disasters created by the earth. All of these things are due to the sinful activities of the living entities. But devotees are not sinful, so still, but we somehow or other we find ourselves being somewhat affected by that. But not in a direct way, but more in a less direct way, because we're in that same, not the same atmosphere, but we're in the same, area where it's going on. The atmosphere is different. And therefore we feel some disturbances, sometimes we also feel some difficulties because of that. But Krishna allows that because the mode of passion is strong, and therefore he allows that mode of passion because that's what people want. They want. Just like now, they're complaining about this pandemic, epidemic, or whatever else it is. They're thinking it's going to stop, but they keep doing the same sinful activities, which was the thing that produced it in the first place. And then they expect, it's kind of quite foolish when you think, well, I want to get a different result, but I do my activity in the same way. I think devotees also find that, I want to get up earlier. Every day I want to get up earlier than I am, but I'm still going to bed at the same late time that I'm doing. So why isn't it working? Well, you have to adjust. So yeah, and because we're creatures of habit, we function in a certain way, and because of that function, we continue to create the same results. But when we change is not also easy. Changing our activities means changing our desires. And changing our desires don't change so easily. Because you have to really practice to replace that desire with a better desire or a spiritual desire, and then gradually the material thing starts to become less and less, and then finally it goes, but it doesn't go directly. It doesn't always somehow or another immediately leave us. Therefore, and that's why Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, is simply practice. Practice, just like every day we chant our rounds. So the mood should be, how can I increase the quality of my chanting every day? How can I increase my devotion in the process of chanting my rounds? Rather than thinking, well, this is part of my day, and I have so much time to do it, and once I get it done, then I can go on to, the real activities in life. Prabhupada would say, 16 rounds, now I can do any damn thing I want. I have completed my vow, so now I am free. But that's materialistic mentality. Because the whole process is to glorify the Lord, and And the recommended and most direct way is to chant His holy name. So that's, something that we should never consider to be something that we just get done, or something that will that we have to do, or whatever. It should be seen as something we look forward to every day, like that. So these are some points we can think about in terms of this particular. And as long as we are still connected with material desires, we will always get reactions that are unfavorable to our spiritual growth. So we have to change our desire. And we want to purify the desire by connecting that desire with the activity of devotional service. And then that purifies our consciousness, and gradually we become fixed. And then at one time there's no more reactions from previous karmic activities. They automatically stop. And then a devotee will say, well, sometimes I get a reaction that looks like something material. But that may not be. They may simply be Krishna's way of doing us and giving us a little corrective, medicine. In other words, the laws of material energy are very strong, and so if we go against those laws, we may also find ourselves in a very awkward, or maybe even a kind of a debilitated health type position. But it's simply a reaction for wrong activities. But because we are under the guidance of Krishna, then we can simply take shelter of Krishna and do the needful. And Krishna is there. For the materialists, Krishna is there in the form of simply allowing the material energy to give them their reactions full force. They're not interested in God. They're interested in adjusting the material energy to make the reactions of their activities more favorable. But that's not possible, because they're not the controller of the material energy. Material energy is more powerful. So people try to control or try to adjust forever, and that's all they do. Adjust, adjust, adjust. Sometimes they adjust and they get something temporarily favorable, and they think, oh, I finally got it, but then something comes along and changes the whole thing again. So the material energy is endlessly mutable. It's always changing, and it's working under higher authority. Karma, daivana, trena. So we cannot control the material energy, but Krishna can. And according to our desire, Krishna adjusts the material energy to facilitate our devotional life. Like that. If we want to simply do the activity in devotional service, we'll get something, but we won't get really much out of that. If we want to please Krishna by the activities, or please the spiritual master in our endeavor, then that has more mercy attached to it. So purifying our consciousness in terms of what is the motivation that we perform activities for. So sometimes, most of us, we still have mixed motivations, something for Krishna and something for me. It's in there, it's kind of mixed in. There's Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, in giving a commentary on Rupa Goswami's verses from the Upadeshamrita, explains that there are in one of the characteristics that are detrimental to devotion or favorable to devotional service is that there are some persons who see Krishna as a source of their own devotional and their own sense gratification. And this is unfavorable. To see Krishna as, well, Krishna is really, really cool, and I can really enjoy in devotional service. So therefore, if I serve Krishna nicely, I'll be happy. I'll satisfy my senses. And that's making Krishna one of the exclusive point of our sense gratification. And then there's others who are a little less pious, who include Krishna in the whole gamut of their spiritual or their material desires. well, I enjoy here, 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 and here, and Krishna is one of the ways I enjoy, or try to enjoy. No one can try to enjoy Krishna, but that's the motivation. As Prabhupada would say, when sometimes devotees would be in his association, he would say, don't try to enjoy the spiritual master. Well, like, I'm coming to the spiritual master to see what kind of happiness I can get from his presence. That's wrong. One should come in that mood of what can I learn that will be beneficial for my Krishna consciousness, or even better, how can I serve in that arena. I remember I was sitting in the back of a class with a very senior devotee about to give class, and I was thinking, boy, he gives really good classes. I'm sure I can learn something that I can use in my class. And so he opens the class by saying, we should come to class not with the idea of trying to get something so we can use for our own preaching. First thing he said. So, and I was really geared up to that whole idea. And so that was the end of that. Although it took me a while to get over it. Huh? I used the opening line he used. so I could tell people the same thing he told me. So Krishna's in the heart. He knows exactly what your desire is, and if somebody is who's very advanced, is connected with Krishna in the heart, they know exactly what you're thinking, or how you're thinking anyway. Not exactly what you're thinking, but they know how you're thinking. So so that was the end of that. So the idea is to to purify our consciousness where we can try to benefit spiritually from everything we do and not try to mix in some happiness. Well, I'm going to the kirtan because I will be so happy. And kirtans make you happy. It's nice, but that's not the motivation for attending. The motivation is, it's a wonderful way, and it's the most powerful way to glorify the Lord and to associate with devotees in a very wonderful way. So that's more of a proper, inspiration for coming to kirtans rather than thinking, or I don't like this kirtan because it's not so, whatever reason I don't like it. We can put a whole long list. And there's that guy, he's singing again, so I won't go. Sometimes we think like that. But Prabhupada said, any kirtan, as long as the mood is glorifying the Lord, doesn't matter. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was not noted for his beautiful melodious voice. In fact, sometimes his devotees would cringe when he would sing, but he had such bhakti that, it was uplifting. But he wasn't known for his melodious singing or his, expertise in, musical expressions. But Prabhupada was more in that mood. He was more in that mood. But he also encouraged us to try to make everything nice for the preaching. He wanted our kirtans to be very, nicely done, both as a way to glorify the Lord and at the same time to purify us and give us, Krishna consciousness. There was one story where the devotees were in Vrindavan, and there was one expert singer. He wasn't a devotee, but he had met the devotees and they became friends. So they invited him to come to the temple for one program, which was a morning program. So he came. And when he was there, the devotees noticed that here's this good singer. So they suggested to Prabhupada, can he sing? Prabhupada said, sure. So they gave him the chance to sing. I'm not sure what he was singing. I guess he was singing the Hare Krishna mantra. But Prabhupada didn't like anything he sang, although it was very, very nicely composed and expression was all expertise, nice. But there was no bhakti. And what he was trying to do is that there was some mood of trying to impress others with his singing. Prabhupada, the pure devotee can pick up on that. That he's simply trying to attract attention to himself, or he's simply thinking that he's very expert. So Prabhupada stopped it, and right in the middle of it, and Prabhupada stopped, and everybody was kind of, feeling, wow, Prabhupada stopped it. And then he pointed to one other devotee who couldn't sing at all. And he said, you sing. And so when he started this thing, the devotees went, oh. And Prabhupada was there like, oh, so nice. Because he had devotion, but there wasn't much more than that. But that was enough. Prabhupada wanted to make a point. Of course, if we combine both, that's the idea. And Prabhupada said for preaching, our kirtan should be very, very pleasing, very attractive, because it will attract the conditioned souls more and more like that. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Is there any comments or questions? Okay, don't all raise your hand at once. Oh, okay, thank you.
If I understood well, you said the mode of ignorance is
destructive.
Yes, and you also give the example of it's when you're aiming for fame and aiming for money, etc.
That's passion,
etc. And then you mentioned, indeed, you said this is also the mode of passion, but it is acceptable and still destructive. Why is it acceptable in the mode of passion?
It's acceptable from the material point of view, where the mode of ignorance is not even acceptable by material people, because they see it's destructive to, not only the environment, to themselves and to others. And then the mode of passion is a hard struggle to enjoy in different ways. In other words, gross sense gratification. That is considered to be normal by material standards. The only good quality, or you might say the good quality amongst the mode of passion is creativity. Sometimes that is seen as the best of the mode of passion is creativity. So, I'll give you a nice little, this is something that I heard and I thought was interesting. And the mode of, if a person is thinking in the mode of ignorance, he's thinking, if I can get something, then I can do something. And if I can do something, then I can be something. Mode of ignorance, if I can get something. So the idea is to get. The other mode of passion is, if I can do something, then I can get something, then I can be something. And the mode of goodness is, if I can be something, then I can do something, and then automatically I will get something. Yes. Be, do, and get. You see the mood, how the direction is focused like that. And the mode of ignorance is destructive, the mode of passion is selfish, and the mode of goodness, they say, is somewhat selfless. Or mostly selfless. Although there is a little selfishness there also.
Thank you.
Yeah. Study that 14th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, and you can get a clear understanding from Prabhupada's explanations how the modes affect the conditioned souls.
Thank you.
Anything else? There is a question from the outside.
In the 11th canto, purport I read, by giving up one's false ego of identification with the three modes of nature, one can achieve Krishna consciousness. I never heard about identification with the gunas.
What's the last sentence you said? I never heard what?
I never heard about identification with the gunas. Gunas.
Yeah, gunas means modes.
Yes.
The three modes. Yeah, we identify with them by performing activities that are within the three modes. That's our identification. We connect with those modes. And the false ego is the directing feature that leads us to activities, material activities. The characteristics of the false ego. Mm-hmm. False ego tells the mind, and the mind acts in one way or the other. But the false ego is so subtle that one can't even perceive its activities. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Identification comes, yeah, through the activity. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Same person?
Same person. It's a little difficult to read. No, it's the same. 3 times.
Oh, the same question, yes, 3 times?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, 3 modes. Okay. He's trying to cover his question within each of the modes. You want to answer my question in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance? We'll try to answer it in Sudasattva. Okay. Oh, okay, yes.
Maharaj, thank you. This in the 2nd chapter, at the end, Krishna says about the one, I don't know what is exactly the verse, it's something about...
2nd chapter of Gita?
Yeah. It's...
Apuryamam achalam apravistam.
No, a little before.
The rivers flowing into the ocean?
Yeah, a little before that. Videya Atma, the one who sticks to regulative principles and he's not attached, I don't know to what, then the next verse is he gets the full mercy of the Lord, and the next verse is he, after getting the full mercy of the Lord, his miseries are gone and his intelligence is sufficiently
by acting under the by acting according to regulative principles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he gets full mercy, and
oh yeah, okay, that's 264.
Yeah, 265.
It's 264 and 264. What is that verse? Yeah. Yeah, prasadam adhikaichyati. One gets, prasadam means mercy, one gets the mercy of the Lord, one follows the regulative principles of freedom, as it's mentioned. Because the principles of freedom means that they detached you from material activities. The regulative principles are meant to get us off the bodily platform. Yeah. That's the beginning of happiness. When you're not suffering, you're on the what is called the marginal place between happiness and suffering. It's just you're moving towards, a better situation. So you're somewhat peaceful. When they say the basic principle of happiness is peacefulness. There's no happiness without peace. Mm-hmm. So when you start feeling freed from the effects of the material energy, you start becoming more peaceful within yourself. But that doesn't mean you're actually, happy. You're moving in the right way. You're moving away from misery. That's all. Yeah, and then keep going. And as you execute devotional service, or do devotional service is susukam kartama vayam. It's the principle of happiness. One becomes happy by engaging in devotional service. Okay? Okay, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Probably a short call.
I'm not an active participant anyway.
Can be more active.
Small but sweet. No, I also don't want. Yeah, I understand.
Puteți să vă luați și să fiți pregătite să vă întrerupeți.
And
so nice and so softly. Simple for says so nice and so softly. Yeah, I know the phrases. Hare Krishna. I try to do that.